Welcome to Bitesized Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brian Razzino. Dr. Brian Razzino has over 20 years of experience as a talk therapist, and he uses short videos dealing with mental health issues in order to connect and educate hundreds of thousands of people. On this show, Dr. Razzino will make reference to his short clip videos and do his best to explain the mental issue referenced and how it can be addressed. Dr. Razzino does not give medical advice, but hopes that he can help people understand what is going on mentally in order to go ask for clarification with their own personal mental health.
How are you, man?
Dr. Brian Razzino, you found something cool on Netflix once again. Michael Pollan.
Going back to the well, you know. So check this out.
Yeah.
We're looking at this psychedelic stuff, psychedelic science, Netflix series.
Yeah.
We arranged our show today. My friend who lives in Italy sends me an invite. He's like, you got any interest in going to this conference in Denver in June? And it's a psychedelic science conference. Sign me up, baby. So I'm going.
Talk about a quinky dinky.
Yeah, it was perfect.
We did a show on Neuronoodle with Heather Hargraves, and
yeah, you sent me that.
Touched on psychedelics, and I'm like, I got enough keeping busy with neurofeedback, but
yeah,
from the untrained, unlicensed person, it does seem to me like it increases neuroplasticity, or building new neurons, new connections, and I think that's why the Beatles were so damn good.
Yeah, could be. Well, it's really taking off, and it's like in the last 10 years, there's been like a lot of research that is credible research that's been authorized and funded, and it's being carried out. And there's actually my friend, actually, the guy that I'm actually doing the conference with is going to introduce me to this guy, Rick Doblin, and he's like this visionary, no pun intended, or pun intended, whatever. But he founded this organization called MAPS that is dedicated. It's the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and it's got like $170 million of endowment. But in 2021, MAPS published this study using veterans and PTSD and managing their PTSD with psychedelics. And what they found was that over 2/3 of veterans that were diagnosed with like really serious PTSD pretty much recovered after being treated with LSD. I'm trying to find that. Yeah, here we go. So a 2-month follow-up after the initial treatment, 67% were no longer seen as meeting the requirements for PTSD. And then at a year, those results were durable. So meaning like most of the people still did not meet eligibility. So that's pretty significant. It was considered one of the biggest breakthroughs of the year as far as science.
How did it get such a bad rap in the late 60s, early 70s? All the San Francisco people.
Damn hippies.
They had a lot of hippies. They had a lot of research going. I think they got shut down. They got labeled as a Schedule 1, and they had 40,000 people researching it, and then bleh.
Yeah, I mean, like Timothy Leary, people like that who are, what is it? Tune in,
turn off, tune up, tune out, something like that.
Drop out. Yeah, that was his whole thing, right? So, but yeah, he was doing a ton of research, and he was definitely like one of the true believers. And the research was pretty compelling, but that all got shut down. It looked like with Nixon and his recategorizing of that, and then his war on drugs, and for
Turn
like
on, tune in, drop out.
turn on, tune in, drop out.
Sort of like our new listeners and watchers.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
So Nixon, he brings Elvis in and all that trippy stuff, and then
Yeah.
he turns on LSD. I mean,
Yeah.
what they say? It's like you can have a regular bomb and a nuclear bomb. You can have a regular intoxicant, and you can have LSD.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you can't OD on it.
Yeah. No adverse effects. I think all of these things have qualifications of like, what we're talking about. If we're talking about microdosing, or if we're talking about like a regular dose, or and
check with your private personal physician before you do anything.
Yeah, the guy that you meet behind the gym. Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things. It does sound a little too good to be true in a lot of ways. That because it's sort of like this miracle drug. But what I think is really interesting about this is what it tells us. And this is what Netflix gets into. What it tells us about consciousness and our states of consciousness, and what that has to do with,
like spotlight and the lantern.
Yeah, the spotlight and the lantern consciousness, and
go over that.
Basically, the work of developmental psychologists looked at babies, that is, people that are 4 years and under, looking at their problem solving and their attentional capacity, and basically she describes them as having really, really strong attention, and really in many cases very strong problem solving skills. Their attention is more diffuse, though, like a lantern, so it's very bright, but it's diffuse, so it's paying attention to everything at once. And
it's like a blank hard drive that's writing, right? And if you have everything you haven't seen before, it's going to write a lot. Oh, I saw that before, I'm not going to pay attention to it, and I'm going to go on to something new. Is that right or no?
Yeah, I mean, that's where the idea of a sponge comes from, where it's just like, it's taking in all the information, and it's compiling this data, and it's learning about the environment and how the environment reacts to certain things, and testing things out and playing with things. I think of it sort of as the 3D printer, but inside your head of the world. This idea of, it's building internal images and an information base that later on will come in really handy as far as figuring out new problems, because you understand the material world. You understand what it means when water's wet, and when something is a piece of metal, something's hot, versus cold, and all of these things are being figured out, at tremendous speed. I mean, just if you think about like everything that a newborn has to take into its brain and learn about the world, it's pretty amazing. But this ability to mentally represent and hold pictures of the world in your head really begins around 8 months. They call that object permanence. The ability to then be able to sort of hold contrasting ideas or two different pictures in mind at once, that starts around 4 years of age, 3 years of age, actually. So you can think about something, being wet and cold and hot at the same time, and you're able to like kind of integrate that information, figure out that it would mean that it would be like lukewarm if it was water that was put together. You can start to work with information that's very contradictory, and that's like a major milestone as far as problem solving, which is really amazing. So the spotlight attention or consciousness is really how many adults, that is individuals who are, above 20 for the most part, 25, we're very focused in on a particular set of things during our day. And we have a line of thinking that's already been it's been established, that has to do with our routines and our goals and our recent memories and all of those things. And so we're basically on this path that's been already constructed for us by this spotlight consciousness. We're really just focused on a particular set of things. When you use a psychedelic, what it does is it brings you back to that lantern consciousness, where you can actually unlock from that spotlight focus that you've had, and then start to consider lots of other perspectives on what's happening around you, and talk about increasing freedom, breaking free of, some of the ideas that maybe constrained you before.
Is it like having a maze in your head that it was written in there a long time ago, and there's a certain path to get through the maze, and then now you take a psychedelic or neuroplasticity, you're making a new maze, and you're finding a new way to get through. Is that a decent analogy?
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, man. Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, we talk about things like inherited beliefs. We inherit so many beliefs from previous generations about anything from, how gravity works to what's the best way to approach a woman.
Religion, rigidity, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Work ethic, what morality, these are all inherited beliefs. And what it does is it gives us a guide for how to interface with the world. And but what it also does at the same time is it constrains us to certain options, right? And we don't realize that we're being constrained in our options. We just are so used to viewing the world through these lenses. And so what you're talking about with the maze, that's pretty much what we're traveling on, is this maze that's in some ways been set out for us. The psychedelics allow you to actually step outside of that maze in a way, So this is what we mean by the matrix, right? It's this idea of the matrix. You're stepping outside of this configuration of reality that you've been so sure about, and you've relied on for so long, and now you're being able to consider it in a different way.
So really, that's why the Beatles were so good, because rock and roll was done a certain way. Then all of a sudden, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds,
cuckoo cuckoo,
cuckoo cuckoo.
I am the walrus. I don't know what that means, but I love it, baby.
But it's almost like an NFL player using steroids. It's almost cheating, huh?
Well, I don't know, man. Who am I to say? Who am I to say? I think it's fascinating, and I personally or professionally need to. Well, I think personally, I love to learn more about it. Yeah. Professionally, I need to know more about it, though, in terms of the neuropsychology of how this works, and how these new pathways get established. It seems like it's a little bit like you got a Lego set, right? That's already put together. Yeah. And what the psychedelic allows you to do is it allows you to take pieces from the Lego set and move them around, right? And reconstruct this reality that you're in. Or if it's a problem you're thinking about, it can do that. But you're able to look at this Lego set from like all these different angles and have all this different information to help you. So
towards the end of the show, they showed somebody getting an EEG done, and they were tracing the pathway, the connections, the routing through, and it looked to me like this was helping getting the shortest path to wherever it needed to go. Because if you have to go all over the place to find the information, it's almost like, remember defrag on your laptop back in the day?
Yeah,
You'd have to
yeah.
run that to get all the information in one spot. I think it's sort of similar to that. Why do you think? So was it just Nixon or the media? Why do y'all turn on psychedelic? We could be so far ahead. You think the drug companies were
So, I have no idea really.
that's why we're doing a podcast. We can
It's
speculate
probably,
all we
yeah.
want.
So we get to edit that part out and then make me sound
Okay.
really sure
All right.
about what I'm saying. So I think it's probably like there's a lot of sociocultural factors that played into it, including the war, the Vietnam
Yeah,
War,
right.
and the protests and the countercultural movements, and there was just a lot of things that were threatening um, societal norms that had been in place for a long time, and I think uh, it was just in the midst of a time of like tremendous upheaval. And one of the, I think, the scapegoat probably was LSD. I mean, it probably was a very convenient, or it was a very believable, uh, you know, case that LSD was turning people into crazy people that,
But questioning authority
yeah, I mean, of course, you would have to be insane to question authority in our way of life, right?
and Nixon.
Yeah, and Nixon, exactly, exactly. So, I think a lot of those things played into it. But the old fear machine is using the fear machine to advance a political agenda is really, that's right out of the playbook, you know. So, and I'm sure there were a lot of corporate sponsors to that sort of thing, that found that they were threatened, their interests were threatened, pharmacy, medicine, these are all things that probably got a little nervous.
Well, I threw out the Beatles getting a little extra help from LSD. Possibly Steve Jobs, all this stuff from Apple,
Yeah,
that he came up with. You must have a phone in this hand. You must have, a music player in this hand. What if we put it together?
yeah, yeah. That sledgehammer commercial,
Yeah. So maybe a lot of
breaking
this
out of
stuff
the,
came.
yeah.
So we need more people do LSD. Is that what we're saying?
That is,
Just
I
a
think that's where,
20th of a dose.
I think that's where we're headed. Um, well, so here's part of where this leads me in my thinking and just kind of like regular day-to-day thing. This points us in the direction of some lifestyle changes or lifestyle behaviors, in terms of like amount of relaxation that we get, amount of like quiet time and meditation that's distraction free, so that we can free up, our mind from all the preoccupations and the worries and concerns that we're pelted with all day long. You know, um, Being able to play, finding ways to play, meaning engaging in activities that are fun, but they involve some challenge and problem solving and creativity, use of objects or information in new ways that have you stretch your way of thinking, your mind. These are all like really, really important practices that can help you with this lantern state of consciousness, or breaking out of, or at least loosening up that spotlight consciousness. So in terms of like mental hygiene, that's one of the big takeaways that I get from this. That it's very, very important to be able to unplug, and the idea of meditation. Going outside and being in nature, where you can really just settle down and take things in. It can do a lot in terms of being able to inspire you, or open up new solutions to problems that you've been working on for a while.
You want some mushrooms?
Fucking love some mushrooms.
So now help me out. We're not trying to push drugs, but we've heard that, just say no to drugs. Okay. I think people are dying more from booze than they are. I taking fentanyl aside, I'm taking fentanyl aside, but like weed, okay. Can you OD on weed?
No, you
Okay.
can't.
I mean, it'd be really hard. You know what? You probably die from overconsumption of Doritos.
Yeah.
so
I think if you OD on pot, you just get really, really friendly.
or some people, their anxiety goes off the chart.
That's true. Some people do have that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So, but
yeah.
well, the Doritos, you can tell a pot addict by their orange fingers.
Yeah.
but LSD, I was surprised after all this time you can't OD from it, but they show all these people like their minds exploding, but that doesn't seem to really be the case. Not condoning it, but there's all the stuff that's legal that can kill you.
Well, right. Yeah. Like, legal doesn't mean safe, right?
Yeah.
Like, legal doesn't mean healthy.
Yeah.
It just it means that it's past a certain bar of acceptability. But cigarettes, I mean, alcohol is like totally like in terms of the spotlight consciousness versus lantern consciousness. I don't think alcohol helps you expand your mind. I think what it does is that it quiets your mind, but it's sort of like deadening your thinking more than anything. And it's got just a lot of like negative side effects, right? Like, I don't know about you, but like the day after I've had a few drinks, I never really feel great, like there's usually some weird kind of like
the recovery.
And like you feel a little guilty, a little bad. And it's like, but like, why? Where's that come from? And I think that's because that's what it does is it trigger for a lot of people, it triggers a little bit of depressive thinking, that withdrawal.
Or anxiety.
Or anxiety. Exactly.
Because you're dehydrated and that screws up your chemicals. And, it's, look, nothing's good for you. You got to pick your poison. It's just that some of the stuff that the media said is poison, they should be a lot harder on alcohol and cigarettes than they are, and maybe have a more open mind on LSD.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to heading in that direction, and the VA has started to implement these protocols, these psychedelic protocols to work with veterans to address this PTSD issue.
Yeah.
And it's an part of the initiative of this this MAPS program that is to fight against trauma, collective trauma. It's interesting if you go through their kind of this presentation, they look at trauma from a lot of different angles, including they want to reach out to people in war-torn countries, and help them with their ability to cope with what's happened or terrible poverty. And they've just started to actually do some research in adolescents using psychedelics who have experienced significant trauma to see if this can help there. So, I mean, I think the heart is in the right place. They're not just out there to, party, but
right.
There's definitely like a legitimate sense that, this can do some good.
Headaches, chronic clusters. I thought it was weird. I guess in Sweden, I think it was Sweden, they have like an exit clinic or a suicide clinic that
I thought that caught me too. Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's
you decide that you don't want to live anymore. You just show up, you make an appointment at the exit clinic.
I wonder what the paperwork looks like.
I think it's just like, I think it's like food stamps or something. I think you just have to have like some tickets.
Well, like if you're going to get a divorce, there's like a cooling out period. It's, oh, you want to check out? Well, hold on now. Now we make gallows humor, but
Yeah, no,
there,
it's a valid point, like, because there's got to be, I would imagine, you know, you're not going to take everybody that wants to do an appointment because, it's like, well, when did you start to feel this way? Oh, just now, I
right,
mean,
right.
you're going to take people that have been like suicidal in the last 24 hours versus somebody who's like facing like really dire medical situation that's going to involve tremendous pain and them losing their mind and also, by the way, going to cost their loved ones their all of their financial security. That's a different case. So yeah, I
right.
imagine there's got to be some way to make that decision.
Well, suicide. I mean, just pick your weapon of choice. Guns, okay. More people die from suicide from guns than actual shootings, and they publicize these mall shootings, which, okay, great, but why don't you deal with the intent and help out? Parity law. If pay the insurance company should pay the same for a broken arm than a dysregulated brain.
Yes, absolutely, no question. And you'll save a lot of broken arms doing
Yeah,
that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So as usual, another great little gem that you found here,
Yeah, just
Doc.
a little diamond in the rough, sort of like you, Pete.
Acquired taste. Well,
Possibly. I
it
think I
really.
should. I think I should do the podcast though from the conference. I think I should find a.
When is this conference?
It's June 19th to like June 24th.
Make sure you tell everybody you're from Canada over there.
Yeah.
They don't like Americans.
Really? Oh well.
Even though tourism should be the number one. We'll edit that in post.
I'm
So
gonna wear.
next time,
I'm gonna wear a Hawaiian shirt, flip flops.
long live the king, or God save the queen. Yeah, what do they say now? If it's not God save the queen,
Long
they
live.
they got a yeah. Long live the king. Okay,
I don't know.
they got. Well, that's a long line of merchandise that needs to be changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like 100 years.
That's gonna be a real bitch.
So, Doc, next time we get together, we're going to talk about shrooms.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Is that the next episode?
Yeah, that's what I saw. Shrooms. So,
shrooming it.
So hopefully we whetted your appetite not only to watch Netflix, but maybe to expand your recreational drug of choice.
But also, like, hey, coming back to those lifestyle changes, right? Like, don't get out there and play. Like, this is why they have these break rooms and businesses with that have foosball tables and cornhole and putting greens, and because it's important to be able to shift your mindset. And if you can do stuff like play and also unplugging and relaxing, it's going to be better. It'll make you richer in the end.
We've always done it that way, Doctor.
Yeah. Don't you tell me.
That's how we've done it for 20 years, man.
Yeah. You and your hippy dippy ideas.
All right, Doc. Till we see you next week. Bye.
Sounds good.